as I'm thinking about it, one thing is that we're going to do T-shirts for the trip, and Corky, my buddy Corky, he preemptively claimed navy, and so we're going burgundy, and Troy's working on that. We're going to do long sleeve T-shirts that have the church name and Holy Land 2020 and so forth, and you can, especially as we layer, you can feel free to wear those, as often as you'd like. But I think, particularly for the day that we're in Jerusalem, it's really helpful to, sort of see where all the group is, and it's helpful for me to make sure that we're all staying together there. So that'll be coming, and we were talking about it. I think I'm going to do a sign up Genius thing. I think that'll be the easiest way, and just have everybody go to the link and tell me your shirt size, and so that'll be fun. Oh yeah, we won though. Yeah, the T-shirt. It's not the kind of T-shirt contest you're thinking though. This is just who had the best T-shirt. So I don't even know why you guys were thinking about that. But so Ashley thought that it might be helpful to do a little show and tell. And one thing we mentioned about the adapters. So this little guy really came in handy. It has a couple of USB ports at the top for charging your laptop or not laptop, your iPad or that tablet kind of thing, and phone. And then a plug-in in the front that you can plug in a regular 110. Thing about these though is they don't convert, so it's still going to be 220 volts. So you don't want to plug a hair dryer, but you can plug in, like your cell phone will take that. I mean, you can double check on it, but those generally will take from 110 to 240. So we've had the best luck with just a regular adapter. The Yeah, so it looks like that, just with those two. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, it's kind of like with ours, like just not having the ground at the bottom, that you can still plug it in. And yeah, right. That's right. Yeah, if yeah. This was just for Israel. So if you do a search on Amazon or Google for a, is it? I can't remember. But as long as it looks like, it's kind of like ours except prongs. Um, so and like I said, this one's got little different plug-ins. But just make sure that whatever you plug in can take 220, because that's the voltage in Israel. And this, nobody's allowed to make fun of this, although I keep saying that and people keep doing it. But this is my bag, and it is not a purse. We can call it a Merce if you want, but this is from Pack Safe, and there are other brands too. But it has like cable in the strap so that it can't be cut, and the RFID protection, and then the bag actually has mesh so it can't be sliced open. And I will say that we've never, we've been twice, but we've not had an occasion where things got that weird. But like, for instance, there are a lot of people, especially going through the old city when we're on the Via Dolorosa. There are a lot of people and a lot of vendors, and it just feels good to be able to strap everything down and know that it's secure. Nobody's just going to be able to grab it. And like I said, we're going to look out for each other, and we'll watch and make sure everybody's okay. But just as an idea, something like that can be helpful. Pack Safe, PACSAFE. That's good to know. I didn't know that. Oh, good. There you go. So Samsonite at the outlet. So yeah. Now I wish that I could tell you exactly what our flight arrangements are. I I haven't gotten good information, and they have not booked us yet. That doesn't mean that they are not going to. They will, but they haven't yet. But it does look like we're going to be on at least a couple of flights. And so what we'll do is I'll just make sure that whatever flight I'm not on, that we've got a contact. And also, one of the folks from EO that helped set up our trip is going along. I'm not sure who he's flying with or who he's riding with, but he's going to be with us in Israel, and they want to do that since it's such a big group and make sure everything goes fine. So, they'll take care of us. As soon as I get the confirmed airline information, I'll forward that on to you. But I wish I had that, but I don't yet. And I can tell you also that we're going to be on 2 buses in Israel. They only, like their biggest one, seats like 58 or 60 people, and we're more than that. So what we'll be doing is, my friend Greg, his church actually they have a smaller group. They're 22, so we'll be on one bus that'll be nearly full, and then about a third of our group will be on Greg's bus, and he's really awesome anyway. You'll probably like him better than me. And but I'll kind of skip between the two because I want to stay connected and that. But we'll stay together. The total group is too big to stay at the same hotel in Netanya and Tiberias or Galilee. So our 2 buses, along with Greg's church, will go to one of the hotels, and then Corky's has 2 buses, and his church will go to it. But we'll be together at the hotels and such. So that's what I know about that. And any travel kind of questions or anything that, yeah.
Just need to be sure. Is the passport sufficient, or do we need any sort of a travel visa?
No, any of the visa kind of things, the EO takes care of. So with the extension and the whole deal, yeah, right, yeah, that's. No, actually, we've gotten the names of the tour guides, and there are 4 tour guides, and we have to kind of split them up. But no, he's not on the list there. So. Right. Yeah, it is. Yeah.
And also, if you like to use a washcloth, bring your own. Because we have one hotel in washcloth on our top.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Bring a washcloth.
Yeah, the little loofah scrubby things. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. There is a bit of free time in the evenings, but for those who are on the extension, there's actually a whole day in between that will be in Jerusalem, and Bonnie's got an inside man, and so we're getting some ideas together for that free day in Jerusalem. Yeah, so when everybody that's coming back after the main trip, that day when they go back, we'll be in Jerusalem for a time. So. Yeah, it's looking like what we're going to have to do, particularly with the flights being at different times, and Dennis checked in on the Magic Carpet and their availability, and the day that the main trip group comes back, they can't get there until 4, and those flights are mid-morning, so it's looking like that's kind of a no-go to bus over. So we're going to come up with some sort of a process to connect people to carpool, and we'll have to figure that out. Maybe Sign Up Genius will help us, but somehow to be able to carpool over, and I can share, what's the name of the place that we parked, that extended place? Park Fast. Yeah, is that the one with covers on it? Yeah, yeah, that one was really good. And it's like fast, park, relax, park quickly, and I don't know. Anyway, but yeah, it's fairly. I mean, it's still cost, but it's less expensive, and your car's covered, and right, that's right. Yeah, yeah.
Fast, Fast Park. Fast, Fast Park.
Yeah, and they're great, but I will tell you, be ready when you park. I've never seen anything like it. I mean, when you park and you turn the car off, they're there. I'm like, I haven't even got my suitcase, man. So, yeah. So, but we'll work on that. Any other questions?
Are our flights in the morning, afternoon, or in the evening?
When the flights are, so going over, it's an evening flight from Newark or New York, and so we would leave here mid-morning, early afternoon, get up there, and then the flights generally they leave 6, 7 o'clock, and then they get to Jerusalem in the evening, and then we go to bed. The ones coming back leave late at night there, because I think it's the ones that have flown over, and then they turn around and go back, and those typically get in here here in Orlando mid-morning.
And so we would leave there the 23rd and at night, we travel on the 24th, or is it the 24th?
I think it's the 23rd here. Is that right? What? Hal's got a notebook. This is promising. So, okay. So the extension is getting back the 3rd. So 27th and 3rd. Well, they gave me 2 different flight itineraries, and one is Delta through, I forget which, New York City Airport, and then the other's United through Newark. So one or the other, though. Yeah, I don't remember, and I didn't even bring it with me because it's like it's still up in the air, and none of them, haven't been confirmed yet. So, but generally, like it'd be late morning, early afternoon that we'd leave from Orlando. No, but that's a good point. I should have brought some of those to model too. So, you know, there is an issue with blood clots, especially with this long a flight. So compression socks can help, and then honestly, just making sure that you get up every once in a while and walk the plane and stretch a little bit. Although on our way back from the Wesley tour, somebody was doing yoga in front of us, and I mean that wasn't super appreciated. But everybody's got to do their thing, so it's like just read the book and so. But then the other thing is, don't forget too that and I don't understand this scientifically, but you do become dehydrated. Like flying that long, you give up a lot of moisture, so you have to make sure to drink. And we did have somebody the last time faint, and it was a combination of things, but part of it was dehydration. And so do make sure that you drink water. No, I mean they'll be very watchful about it, but I mean there are tons of people there touring all the time, and they're very I mean they're probably the best in the world at security, and so we're always well taken care of. And I was saying earlier when we were talking, the first guide that Corky went with, who actually, he was the guide when we went too, you know, he's an Israeli, and he said, you know, everybody in Israel wants us there. That everybody knows that this is how they're surviving, and so, you know, Palestinians, Israelis, everybody wants us there. And so, you know, when you listen to the news, you don't ever hear about American tourists having something happen to them in Israel. Just, you know, so anyway, probably the drive to Orlando is going to be the most dangerous thing, honestly. So, so yeah. That's a good question. Yeah, I need to find that out. In fact, yeah, help me remember that. Yeah, because I'm not sure, but yeah, we'll check. Well, the tips at the hotels are taken care of, so the only ones that we have to be concerned with are the driver and the guide. And the driver is roughly, is it 25 and 50? Yeah, 25 for the driver a person and 50 for the guide a person. I mean, that's just the suggested kind of love offering for them. They take care of all that. So all of those things are included. And lunch, I mean, you could leave a gift at lunch, but it's like not fast food, but it's like counter service, but I mean, if you wanted to give them a couple bucks, it wouldn't be inappropriate, but oh, right. Oh yeah, that was great. Bring you a fish with all the bones and the eyeballs in it if you want. That's called the St. Peter's fish. Yeah, don't order that. Right. Yeah, and that's a very short period, so I think that'd be more like 10 and 20 or something like that. Yeah. I'm sorry? Right. Yeah, for a couple, it would be 150 uh, for both. Yeah. So why don't we chat then a little bit about some of the places that we're going. We talked a little bit about Megiddo and Caesarea Maritime, and those are very cool. Ancient NASCAR at Caesarea Maritime, and that's fun. Then we're gonna go to Nazareth from there, and the main places, there are two churches, and as you'll remember, the angel visits Mary to kind of let her in on the whole plan, and that's in Nazareth. So there's a church over Mary's home, or what's left of it, and then the same for Joseph, where he grew up, and those are very, very cool, special places. And then also to remember that Jesus was actually rejected in Nazareth. And this is an incredible thing. You know, they were hearing about these amazing things that Jesus was doing, and he comes back, and this is in Luke 4, and he's in Galilee. Says he taught regularly in their synagogues and was praised by everyone. And he came to Nazareth, his boyhood home, and went as usual to the synagogue on the Sabbath. And isn't that interesting to think about Jesus in his boyhood home, like, you know, doing things that boys do. And anyway, that's cool stuff. And so he goes to the synagogue on the Sabbath. The scroll of Isaiah the prophet was handed to him. He unrolled the scroll and found the place where this was written. The Spirit of the Lord is upon me. He's anointed me to bring good news to the poor. He sent me to proclaim that captives will be released, that the blind will see, that the oppressed will be set free, and that the time of the Lord's favor has come. He rolled up the scroll, handed it back to the attendant, and sat down. All the eyes in the synagogue looked at him intently. Then he began to speak to them. The scripture you just heard has been fulfilled this very day. Everyone spoke well of him and was amazed by his gracious words that came from his lips. How can this be, they asked. Isn't this Joseph's son? Then he said, you will undoubtedly quote me this proverb, physician, heal yourself, meaning do miracles here in your hometown like those you did in Capernaum. But I tell you the truth, no prophet is accepted in his own hometown. And then he brings up a couple of examples, about Elijah going to the widow of Zarephath and not to a Jew, and about the healing of Naaman the Syrian, and about how, how they've over time rejected, and we tend to do this. Those things that are familiar, we think, oh, well, God can't possibly be working through this. It's just, and then fill in the blank. And they end up wanting to throw him off a cliff in his own hometown. And it just, part of what I think is so valuable is to place yourself in these events and see what God would speak to you. Because part of this is, in what ways am I resistant to the work of God? I mean, I think that's a good question when you're in a place like this where they rejected Jesus. They nearly, and were it not for the intervention, it sounds like to me, surely of angels, the Lord just caused him to pass through, they would have thrown him off a cliff in his own hometown, right? And so nobody gets thrown off a cliff on the trip, but, what is it that I'm rejecting that God wants to do? What work in my life? How's he leading me? How's he want to change me? And then I want to talk just a minute about the Valley of the Doves, because the geography is, if you're going to go from Nazareth to Capernaum, to the region of Galilee and to Capernaum, then you're going to take this trail that's called the Valley of the Doves. And still today, it's just a walking trail. There's nothing built on it, which you'll appreciate to see something that, there's not anything built on. And it's, honestly, when we went there, I thought, okay, I guess I'll get off the bus, but what do I need to go through this valley? But then walking through, and it strikes you that this is literally where Jesus walked. Like some of these places, they'll say, well, this is the exact rock that Jesus prayed on that night in the Garden of Gethsemane. Well, maybe it was, or maybe it's that one right over there. I mean, it's right here. It's not that big a place, but here it's like that trail is what it is, and it's always been there. And it just sort of dawned on me that he's been rejected in his hometown. What was that like? And then he's taken this trip, and he's seeing these same mountains and so forth. And I mean, it honestly was one of the most powerful experiences there, just this sense of the presence of the Lord in that place. And so when we went the last time, we planned in some more time. Dad went way too far down the trail and held everybody up. And I happened to be with him, and it was really embarrassing because our tour guide was like admonishing me, and I'm like, I'm sorry, that was a bad example. But anyway, it's just really a meaningful place to be. So then we'll make our way to Capernaum, and honestly, Capernaum is one of the most significant places to me. It was like the hub of Jesus' ministry in Galilee. This is where he tended to go out, and he would teach throughout the region in the synagogues, and then he would come back to Capernaum. This is where he's coming back into town, and people are coming to him, and there's a prominent leader, if you remember, whose daughter was near death, and Jesus is going to go, but then he's interrupted. And you'll remember that there's a woman who'd been suffering from bleeding for 12 years, and she thought, if I just touch his robe, like not even him, like if I could just touch the hem of his robe, I know I'll be healed. And sure enough, when she did that, she was healed, immediately healed, and Jesus knew that power had gone out from him, and he takes the time to actually engage her personally. which, again, thinking through this, what does God have in mind for us to learn from this? He stopped, even though there was an urgent need ahead of him, he stopped to engage her personally. And what I think about that is that he wants to be more to us than just like a magic talisman, right? He doesn't just want to be an object that we get things from. He stops and he says, who touched me? And they're all like, well, I don't know. How would you know? Everybody's touching you, But she knew, right? And she comes clean. She said, yeah, it was me. And he says, daughter, your faith has made you well. And so there's that personal connection. It's not just, I'm a magic statue or something, touch me and stuff's going to happen. This is actually a relationship that's formed there. And then, of course, he goes and everybody laughs at him because he says, oh, the girl's not dead. She's just asleep. And he tells her to get up. And guess what? She got up. And I think there's such a lesson for us there, too, to think in this place, right? Jesus demonstrated his sovereignty over death because he knew that physically she was dead, right? I mean, he knows and they know. But to him, it's really not much more than waking somebody up who's asleep, right? He has this power over death. He has the power of life, right? And so to think in this place about all that he did, I mean, this is where Peter's house is, paralyzed man lowered through the roof. As a matter of fact, there's one of the coolest places there, right? They built a church, like a chapel, over the remains of Peter's house. And it didn't dawn on me until we got back, and I'd been there twice, right? So, duh. It dawned on me, they built this so that you would be looking down into Peter's house from the perspective of the paralyzed man who's being lowered down to Jesus. The floor of the place is glass. I mean, it's incredible. And anyway, so I wish that had dawned on me earlier, but I'm slow. I just catch up. That's what, you catch up. And so you're at Peter's house, and I would say the synagogue, you see where Troy is back there, hey Troy? The synagogue is about from here, Peter's house, to him. And Jesus was going there to teach, and he was doing all these miracles. And even there, it seems like Jesus was amazed at their unbelief. Everything that he did, he talks later about how, if I did the same miracles in Sodom and Gomorrah that I did there, boy, everybody would have repented and come to the Lord. But they, they didn't. And so here again, what does God want to teach me about this? Like, could it be that I'm actually missing everyday miracles, like stuff that God's up to, and I'm not even paying attention? I'm not letting it change me. And so that's Capernaum, really awesome place. I love being there. And then also that same day that we go on the Valley of the Wind and Doves, and we go to Capernaum that same day, we're going to go to Magdala, which is it's actually a fairly new excavation. There's a first century synagogue there that, I mean, just in the last, when we were there 2 years ago, it was maybe a year that they had been working on it. So this is a really new find, and the floor, a lot of the floor is intact, and that Jesus taught there. I mean, part of how we know that is he went through this whole region teaching in the synagogues. But also, Mary Magdalene is Mary of Magdala, right? And she is, we read about her in Luke 8. It says, Jesus began a tour of nearby towns and villages, preaching and announcing the good news about the kingdom of God. He took his 12 disciples with him, along with some women who had been cured of evil spirits and diseases. Among them were Mary Magdalene, from whom he had cast out 7 demons, Joanna, the wife of Chuza, Herod's business manager, Susanna, and many others who were contributing out of their own resources to support Jesus and his disciples. And so this is like where she would be from, right? And so we're going to get to go to this place where he taught. They have an amazing chapel that they built on the Sea of Galilee, and I'm hoping we can do kind of big group worship while we're there as well. We'll go to the Church of the Fishes and Loaves, and that's the site of the feeding of the 5,000, and really ancient church there that's just really very cool. And then I want to talk just a couple of minutes. The next day we're going to go to Tel Dan, and this story, we don't really spend a lot of time on it, but this is really consequential to the history of Israel. Solomon, if you remember, he was a great king, wisest guy around, all that stuff. And then at the end of his life, he just kind of came off the rails. Like, he decided that it would be a good idea to have, what did he have, like 700 wives and 300 concubines, or the other way around? And I mean, that's just not a good idea. I think we can all agree with that. It's just not. And he started worshiping and giving homage to these foreign gods, because a lot of these were politically driven, right? That he could have an alliance with this country, this, so forth and so on. And so he really started caring more about politics and about power, and he really gave his heart away. And it's really very sad. And so his son comes along after his death, Rehoboam comes along, and he has not raised him to be a man of integrity and of honor. And so the advisors, the wise advisors, are saying, listen, your dad has been on a raging building campaign, and he's taxed people, and he's required them to work, and if you will lighten that up, you'll be amazed how people follow you, right? And he said, okay, I'll think about it. He goes away and comes back, and he talks to his bratty friends, who all say, if you thought my dad was bad, you better just wait. You watch what I'm going to do, right? And he got all bowed up and all this stuff. And so Jeroboam takes really most of the kingdom, right? It divides 10 and 2, but it just takes the rest of it. The north is all gone from the kingdom, right? There's a divided kingdom then. Well, Jeroboam becomes power hungry too. So he thinks, well, you know what? If people go back to worship at the temple in Jerusalem, they're going to eventually think, you know what? We ought to get back together. We're one people. We're all, united in God. We ought to get back together. And so he doesn't want that to happen. He actually builds 2 alternate worship sites, and one of those is in Tel Dan. And so when we go to Tel Dan, you'll be able to see the remnants of that very worship site. And boy, a lot of what I feel like the Lord spoke to me about that is where am I putting him second in my life? Because wherever in our lives we start putting him second, it starts to get real dangerous, right? And it starts to make us really susceptible to being corrupted and to making life about something else. So that's Tel Dan. And then we're going to go to Caesarea Philippi, and the really awesome thing to think about there is this is where, do you remember when Jesus asked the disciples, hey, what are people saying about me? Like, who are people saying? Oh, well, you're a prophet, you're this, that. And he said, okay, all right. He said, well, what about you? What do you say about me? Who do you say that I am? And Peter is actually given this divine revelation. It wasn't just from his own thinking, which, he tended to not be the deep thinker of the group, at least most of the time. And so that this was just straight from God. So you are the Messiah, right? And again, in that place where you actually see these pagan symbols. You remember that? They had different pagan worship there. Goats and all kind of weird stuff. But in this place where there were all these multiple false gods, he says, yeah, okay, am I just one among all of these, or something else? Like, who am I to you? And in the face of all of this Roman pagan worship, he says, no, you're it, right? You're it. And to me, it's like, okay, when we go there, we've got to ask the question, who is Jesus to me? Is he just one among many things, or is he my Lord? Is he my Savior? Is he it? Am I seeking first the kingdom? So you kind of, I don't want to belabor the point, but you kind of see, like, we think about what is it that happened there? What did God do there? And what does that have to do with me today? I think it's really helpful when we're walking those steps. And then just one more thing I want to mention for today, and then we'll cover the rest the next time, is the baptismal site. The baptismal site is on the Jordan River. It's further north than the place where Jesus was most likely baptized. It was further south and nearer to Jerusalem. But that's like right on the border with Jordan, and there's like floaties in the middle of the water that represent the border, and there are machine gun guys on either side, and anyway. So, and it's really muddy. The water's really muddy there, and at any rate, so this baptismal site is really beautiful, and the water is very clear, and it's yeah, I mean, it's a little on the chilly side. I'm not gonna lie, it's just a little chilly, but I tell you that because you will want to take a swimsuit and an old T-shirt and that sort of thing. For that, if you would like to have a reaffirmation of your baptism, which is really awesome in the Jordan River. I mean, and then also for the Dead Sea, they have where you can rent towels, and they give you a certificate and all that stuff. But I think what probably, yeah, so a little over half of our group the last time participated, and the rest, stood along and we'll sing and stuff. And but think about that. Oh, yeah, good point. Yeah, the little water shoes, because it's rocky on the bottom. Although I found if you stand in there long enough, can't feel your feet, so it's fine. It's fine. So, yeah, yeah, yeah. Cool stuff. So, and if you don't want to, go under, I can do, like a cross on your forehead. I can sprinkle. We're Methodists, so we can immerse or sprinkle. We have options. So. All right, so we're at 4, and that was actually my goal, was to get us out in an hour this time. I felt badly, going longer last time, but if there are other questions that have come up, I'm glad to answer those. Yeah.
We might stay, we stayed right on the slip, the second time.
Right.
I think we'll be doing that.
I'm not sure. There's 2 or 3 hotel options, and there was a new one that he was talking about, and so I'm not sure yet. Really hoping to get those details really soon, but it's such a big group, they're kind of trying to figure all those pieces out. Yeah.
Do you want to bring up where to buy the shekels this time?
Oh, yeah, thanks. Yeah, how, and you were with Center State?
No, we're with PNC.
Yeah.
They have a minimum requirement, and you said that your bank did not.
Right.
And I think Cheryl said your bank did not, and that was Wells Fargo. Did not have a minimum.
Yeah, so if your bank has a minimum that's more than you want, we can kind of pair up, and because like our bank, you could get whatever you wanted, and so at any rate, we can pair up that way. Just as you look, see if you have trouble with it. Yeah, everywhere. I mean, honestly, I think if you had, maybe $50 worth of shekels, because it's mainly for the bathrooms, honestly, is to because a lot of these are maintained by churches, and so yeah, and it's a I think it's about a shekel everywhere. Yeah, so
Do we do the tips at $11?
yes. Yeah.
Has to be the head bank. Has to be the head bank.
Well, and like I was able to, we have Bank of America, and we've done it online, and they just send it to you. Um, but yeah, you may want to look into it just to see. But like I said, I mean, you don't need a ton, and then we'll check on Jordan. I suspect it's the same thing, but it may not be, so we'll make sure.
As far as the amount of shekel, you had written that maybe $50 a shekel. But then you know about tipping the driver and the guy, is that American money?
Right, yeah, no, yeah, they actually like American dollars, so, yeah. Okay. All right, so does anybody remember offhand when our next meeting is? No, it's in early February. Is it really? So we'll have, what does it start at 6? Yeah, so we'll be done by then, yeah. So you can go from here to get your nachos, and then you'll be ready, so. All right, anything else before we go? All right, well, thank you, everybody, and keep an eye out for an email about the T-shirts to respond to that, and then we'll figure out about the Jordanian money. Made of what? Hey, Troy, what are those T-shirts going to be made of? It's either cotton or the cotton blend that's got like cotton and rayon or something like that. I like soft shirts. Oh, does it? All right. So well, I'll let Troy figure that out. He looks like he's an expert. All right. Well, thanks, y'all. We'll see you next time, if not before.